Hello and welcome to Amer's podcast. This is the third episode, and with me today is Samir Baruchia. Samir, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. And thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, no problem
Appreciate
at all. It's good to see you again. Could you tell a little bit about your background and what you do today?
Oh, backgrounds. It's back to 90s. Yeah, where I studied electronics and electronic and telecommunication. And then during that time, I touched, of course, software and programming, and I moved completely to programming. Since 95, I am in the world of programming software on the software side. I understand the electronics still, but it's haven't worked with that to be honest. So yeah, and the background is really from beginning from the embedded software developer to also at that time client server with a VI development and the Oracle and Informix databases and so on. So it was quite a journey.
Yeah, interesting. And why electronics, if I can ask? What was interesting about it?
I was always as a kid, trying to find the opening all the devices, looking inside the PCBs, what is on a PCB, then integrated circuits, transistors, and so on. And then I think I was sixth grade in primary school or seventh or something like that, and then I joined the club, where we tried to do some things with electronics, and it was interesting for me, and yeah,
Mm.
started to build my own amplifiers, mix boards, loudspeakers, of course. Yeah, that's
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, you see a lot of that actually when people just start in electronics and then go into, of course, with the rise of personal computing and those kind of things, go into something like software and those kind
yeah.
of things.
And these days it's really like you can order PCB, you can order the complete to package everything for a couple of bucks. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
different times,
different
different times
times.
for sure.
Yes, indeed, indeed.
Um, so what do you do today?
Today, I'm head of Cloud Center of Excellence, or CCOE, at Signify, former Philips Lighting.
Okay, so you mentioned that. So what is a CCOE for people that don't know?
Oh yeah, quite um, quite a lot of. I should say that a lot of people are looking into CCOE as part of IT or some common thing or the team that is only in operations or doing operations. um, Cloud Center of Excellence, and I think it's quite a broad, could be quite a broad, but it could be also quite. I should say that strict and small building pieces for it and for the larger teams.
Mm,
Depends on I should say it depends on the size of the company. Of course, it could be a couple of people only, or one man show. In a startup, it's usually one man show, and helping other teams to achieve that the best. But if you look into what is included in the CCOE, as that's the central team Let's manage the strategy. Let's manage the operations, and it's audits, of course, in operations. The security is the big part of it, and that everybody has to know. There is a champion for the security as well, and but it's also looking into, for example, we are working, or I'm working with Google Dora.
Mm.
So it's very um, good recipe for CCOE and how the CCOE should work. Why I'm saying recipe, it's like a safe. You should never ever take it by the book, and then otherwise it will be 400 people and then heavy processes and so on. But you take the recipe, and then you start peeling the onion. What is the best for you, for your organization?
Mm.
So if you look, for example, for my organization and Signify on the business side, I'm on the business side. I'm not on the enterprise side. Um, we have multiple things that we are looking into, and it's definitely, for example, it's rapid deployment. So it's Dora is pushing for it and for propagation from the code, from the commitment through the SDLC to production,
Mm.
with all of the tools needed and so on. Then we are looking into some scalability and flexibility in it, either during the development and especially in operations. Then security and compliance. I said that we have ISO 27001 certification, so which means that all compliance has to be there. And what we see recently is in European Union is coming with more and more compliance requests, so it's extensive.
Mm.
Then automated governance, to increase the quality, to increase these security compliances. Then you don't have like 10 people, 20 people to work only with that. So it has to be automated. So that's what I said, and then from the beginning, when somebody is pressing the button on commit, so it should be propagated through the tooling, regarding and automated governance with the guardrails.
Mm.
I mentioned operations. Operations is a big part of it. That's day by day work, and it has to be operational excellence, where we are looking into um, all aspects of the operations.
Mm.
Then the biggest part these days, because everything is in a cloud, the cost optimization. Because when you bring something to developers, it's an infrastructure, for example, and then you give them complete access, and now it's divided opinions, of course. When you give them access to everything, they don't care about the costs. They
Mm.
care about oh yeah, my system will be the best in the world. But we call it gold plating. But we don't need to be the best in the world. We need to be optimized for the purpose and for the greatest value of the feature.
Mm.
Where we see that, for example, some development teams, they're using extra large machines for this and for that, and so on, which means that their architecture is not optimized for the cloud, and for the and efficiency at the end is very low. Often this, why? Because they are putting it's exactly the same when before we will invest money on for the on-prem bare metals, huge machines, and then its utilization is 10%.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's and then the last part I think that's also is part of the CCOE as a center of excellence is learning and development.
mm,
Learning the development. What I mean with that is that we are looking into standards. We are looking into industry, AWS, Google, Microsoft, what is going on, how in the cloud, where are the movements continuing into the cloud, native versus multi-cloud, hybrids. So a lot of strategies is there, and then it's and of course when we together with the R&D teams, when we decide on the roadmap, when we decide on technologies, because that's the impact on us to strategic workforce planning, then that's our roadmap for the next, I should say, 1 to 3 years. 5 is a little bit questionable
mm.
these days in the software industry. And then of course you have to bring that and push for the learnings inside in a community. um, Either it's tooling or proper usage or optimization, cost optimizations, performance optimization, security in the cloud. So it's a lot of that, and then of course you will develop the people, you will develop your developers, architects to be even better in the future.
Yeah, I think what I've seen over the years is that usually what happens is the CCOE is formed because of some of the things that you already mentioned, where people just start using something without thinking about what the strategy should be. How do we set up things? How do we have this new environment? How do we secure it? How do we make sure that no one just logs in and spins up a bunch of machines that cost thousands of euros or dollars. And you can see that as the organization evolves, usually this becomes like a centralized kind of unit that controls these things, or at least puts in guardrails and those kind of things
Yeah.
uh, that um, can help to mitigate these kind of things. Because yeah, if you just let everybody do whatever they want, that's never a good thing.
No, but I have one. I learned that also by a hard way, of course, when I wasn't the architect in one of my previous companies. So bad architecture will be seen on the invoice at the end of the month.
Mm,
Why? Because then you will see that, for example, you don't need extra large machines. You don't need to pull data out and put the data in again and again.
mm,
There are a lot of things that, for example, that um, you can use to prevent the costs and unnecessarily the costs.
mm. Yeah, so that's something I see too. I'm wondering about one thing, because that's something that I also notice when there is a CCOE in place, and as I said, it's kind of like a centralized thing. So how there's always that little bit of tension between the centralized kind of unit and the business units that want to use the technology, right? So how do you handle those kind of things? Because that's, I think, the most tricky part of the CCOE.
Yes, it is. And that's exactly like to enterprise IT.
Mm,
You know, why I'm saying enterprise IT, it's and the business IT. That's two different things. Two different methodologies, two different mindsets, and also and so on. I started in the cloud. I think it was 2009 where I pulled my credit card.
Mm,
And why? Because I was asking enterprise IT, can I get a server? I need a server. They said 3 months. And at that time, it was really crucial to get it in, get server in maximum a couple of days. And so on, because it was yeah, multiple things and then behind it. Long story short, so I pulled the credit card and then had a big fight with enterprise IT to show them that since we they are enabler
mm,
to R&D. At the same time, now that's in the comparison with that one, because I was part of the R&D before, I know that's the pain.
mm,
So CCOE should never ever be obstacle or bureaucratic thing or for R&D, but to work with R&D always and enterprise IT because of the connections to involve them in early days to enable, as I said, rapid deployments and time to market is crucial.
mm. Yeah, one thing I see is that for example, what you'll see in organizations that they will give people sandboxes. They will say like, okay, here's if you're a developer, you can test things out, see how it works, and do those kind of things. But they will put a cap on it. They will say like, okay, you can spend like up to like 500 euros a month or
Yeah,
something like
that's
that.
what we do as well. So it's
Yeah.
sandboxes are forward some innovation, some testing, some things, and then of course we work together with the team. Recently, we implemented the cost dashboards. So
Mm,
we are showing that the cost and the usage to the team that so that they can any time they can go inside and then to see what they are spending
mm,
in development in any environment, in the development, test, production, or whatever.
yeah.
And then and we will work together with them and then to see what is the golden rule for them. Not there is no the same to measure for everybody any team, because some teams they don't need big development environments, and some teams need that, and then it's in production environments it's very small,
Mm,
so it's the other way around. So uh, I think that's the key for successful cooperation between R&D and CCOE or any central enabler function is communication and involvement from the beginning,
mm,
and it's
yeah.
bringing the value to R&D.
Yeah.
Um, because, as I said, we are enabler for R&D, which is enabler also for the product management, which is enabler for the market and the sales. So you see that, and if we are not selling,
It's a chain.
no,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the
Yeah.
shame.
And it's something that you said is interesting. I think so. The sandboxes thing comes into the learning and development, right? Because you want people to test the new things. Because if something new is released, you want to be able to test it out. But also the size of the environments, because you, as you can imagine, for people that don't know, say for instance you work in machine learning or something like that, right? You need maybe a bigger development environment to get things going and see how things. But when you create the model and you deploy it, the environment doesn't have to be that big, maybe, right? So
Yeah.
those are kind of the uh, the trade-offs and the things that you need to look at from a perspective of CCO, which makes things also sometimes complicated, because some teams will maybe want to do, I don't know, maybe want to do like a cell-based architecture, or they want to do something else, right? They want to do something that is not like in the line of what you maybe have of a
No, it is
strategy.
exactly, and Definitely, it's in the movement that we started. I'm saying we, and I was pioneering it in that time, 2009, 2010, with the clouds, and, independently, which one. I think that's it will never ever disappear.
Mm,
That disruption has been done. Uh, However, I still see a lot of developers, they are thinking in the three layers um, methodology to like
mm,
yeah, front end, back end, database,
mm,
which is wrong in these days, especially in a cloud. And um, in universities, and they're missing that event-driven architectures. They are
mm,
missing um, um, uh, um, read write separations and which will to bring a lot of performance gain. So there's still some work to do for us who is in a business to teach them or coach them and mentor what is um, event driven design, what is how to achieve that, and stateless and maybe serverless these days, and so on. So it's uh, all the all tools are there.
mm. Yeah, and it's funny because you mentioned like 2008, 2009. It's kind of the time where I started. So when I know that when I came out of school, like most of the things that I learned in school were just, yeah, I could throw in the garbage basically because nothing had to do with actually what I was doing in that particular moment in time. For example, you were learning a lot of like Windows Server and those kind of things. And then when I got to work, it was like, yeah, here's a Linux box and try to figure it out. And so it's totally not, and I think that's the same for developers, although I've seen it change a little bit. But it's still, as you said, very much three-tier web app. This is the thing that we want to do. And yeah, also the like the shift in like 2008, 2009. I remember there was like still a little bit of people doing bare metal, and then people were going towards VMware and those kind of solutions, virtualization in general. And then, for example, AWS and cloud providers started to come up, where it was like, yeah, you don't even need to own the server anymore. You can just spin it up whenever you need. And I think that was a huge step, but also a huge step in how we organize inside of organizations and inside of IT.
Yeah.
As you said, you need to now think about, okay, what if this particular business unit wants to do this, or how do we not hinder them, but we still want to put in place some guardrails that you can say like, okay, this is you cannot go outside of this because otherwise you're going to do something that's not correct, right? So give an example. If you say public access on an S3 bucket, for example. Like it's a very simple example, but those are kind of things that people know that you shouldn't do. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, if you don't put in guardrails, people might do it just because they're like, oh yeah, it works now. I can see my website. that's, that's those are kind of the things that I see why those CCOEs are so important.
Yeah,
Um,
so it's as I said, it's not in the operational center anymore.
no, no.
The only, so it's a lot of responsibility. So it's in you can have, as I said, some companies I spoke with them. They have 4 people, 8 employees inside. In the teams, they are part of the enterprise IT. They are
Mm,
fighting still with that. So it's not easy
mm,
because the business is asking for something else and so on, and then but it's an enterprise IT processes are hampering them to move faster.
yeah.
So there's still a lot to do, and startups I think that's not there is more pragmatic, and everybody is doing everything, multiple hats, and of course. But at some point, when you are going over from startup to proper SaaS or whatever you are selling, um, or your offering. I think it's the CCOE as part of organization is needed.
Mm,
Uh, is it called CCOE or something else? It doesn't matter, but these people are needed, especially conflict of interests, where we see it, but also specialization in some areas,
mm,
to either AWS or different cloud providers specialized in that, and with proper certifications, with proper knowledge, because at the end, both security, as I said, security and the cost and will be addressed.
yeah. So how do you measure the success of a CCOE in your case? Because I can imagine it's not just the DORA metrics, but there's probably other
Uh,
things.
no, so indeed, um, Donametrics is there to help.
Yeah.
Definitely. And then put yours in a couple of KPIs that you can use or not use or modified and so on. But it and different SLIs, SLOs, and at the end, what program management or some product management is putting SLAs. That's not measurement. The
Mm,
biggest measurement is that you should see that um, or the value of CCOE is when you bring the value to R&D,
mm,
because when R&D is saying, wow, you did a fantastic job here, that's the best KPI ever.
mm,
Um, of course, there are the tensions, and it should be tensions between, because, as I said, we are central team, and it's always tension between one team or the other team, and so on. But at the end, when everything is put in place, and we are rowing in the same direction.
mm. Yeah, you're working for the same organization. Sometimes that's something that that people can forget because
Yeah,
the business units tend to become silos. That's kind of the unfortunately that's sometimes how it works. But you still work for the same organization. You still have the same outcome that you want to have.
yeah,
I think what you mentioned with, for example, the R&D department saying you did a good job. I think uh, it's a measurement of having been able to enable them, right? To say
exactly,
like
exactly.
we can do our things because of you, instead of you've hurt us because we couldn't do the things we wanted to do.
Yeah, and it's because a lot of things are assumed that CCOE should do,
Mm,
to, of course, protect regarding security,
mm,
earn ISO 27001 every year, um, um, have operations up and running 24/7, so that's day by day, and that's assumed.
mm,
So nothing that you can SLIs, SLOs. That's part of the job.
yeah,
So they are expecting that you should do your job. So what else you can bring there is beside of that success is for me because I was part of the R&D for many years. So I know that now it's if I can bring the value to R&D, either in the speed of development or deployment, or automated this and that, and saving the costs, by increasing performance, that's the best value.
yeah. let's take out the glass ball a little bit. So, how do you see CCOEs kind of changing in the future or evolving in the future?
Yeah, everybody is talking about AI, and I should talk about AI as well. So, uh, th- the biggest change I think it's in CCOE is observability. And why observability? Because just to be clear, observability is not end-to-end monitoring.
Mm,
Observability is much, much, much larger than end-to-end monitoring. Um, when you have your data, then you will put either it's coming from log files, from different SLOs, where you are measuring the things and performance and the access and a lot of different parts. And for example, if you take into AWS, there are a couple of good things there. That's like X-ray, like and CloudWatch, like RUM, and so on, synthetic canaries. So when you take that data in, and then if you put it in into a time series, the data is text. And
mm,
then when you attach it to AI, let's take the very simple model, AI model outlier. Then you will find immediately, oh, something is going on here. Look, this is not like should be. There is some peak. Why? And then if you have good AI, then it's to find the correlations and everything. Then you will tend to find what is going on in your production. And then of course, if you connect it to the cost and performance of the system, then you will see that the correlations and what is there. So I think that's more and more it will be automated, of course, and with the help of AI on different parts, not only in one part, different AI models, but definitely that's AI will play a big role there.
that's interesting. Yeah, because I think that's what people need to understand is also that as the organization grows, there's more and more things, more and more moving parts. So it's hard to keep an oversight over everything that's happening within the environment, right? So let's say you have a few thousand accounts. Like, how do you keep track of is an account compromised, for example, or those kind of things, or do you see something, as you said, like an outlier, some account that's now spending much more than they were before? Like, why is that, right? Those kind of things. And I think again, I'm I'm also always a little bit skeptical about like hypes and those kind of things, and I know that AI is one of them. But
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
do see some good applications like this where you can actually use it as something that can augment what you already do. Like, it's
Yeah,
more a tool. Yeah.
why I'm saying also that observability is not end-to-end monitoring or vice versa,
Mm,
because the observability will tell you something that you don't know.
mm.
Uh, and when you are monitoring, then you are monitoring what you know, what to monitor.
You're measuring, yeah,
Exactly. So
yeah.
that's the biggest differentiation. Then when you are putting it to monitoring, then that's the first data. Then you will take maybe machine learning to see it, to learn from the data, and then it will give you insights, some insights, what is going on, and so on. But it's still without AI, which is next step. You don't know what will happen
Mm.
because that's the future. That's you don't know what's in the, you have insights, but how to predict what will happen in production, in development, in this if the classical if this then that, then AI will bring you the foresights, and
Mm.
that's where we see it, or where I see it, that AI will play the big role.
Super interesting. I think that's correct. I see that happening too, where it's it's going to bring some insights that maybe someone wouldn't see just like for surface level when they look at some metrics and those kind of
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, we
um,
see it, and I see a lot of the new companies, the classical and monitoring companies are moving
mm,
into more and more into observability space, enlarging that offering, adding. They call it AI. I call it ML because it's not in the proper AI still. Some companies are doing good and adding proper AI with LLM and models and so on. So it's really really good, interesting. So I think that's also I see a lot of tools are there for the FinOps.
mm,
Why FinOps? And that's exactly it's then people are seeing that in the tremendous bills at the end of the month, and it's like, oh, why is that? How should we be more efficient in what we are doing? So these tools are popping still on left and right. So I think that's in some consolidation during 25 and will be there, and some standardization as well, probably. But then the AI is again, yeah, the AI is the hype and AI is the future.
yeah, yeah, it's a bit of both. Yes, it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
I have one more question before I let you go, and it's the last question I always ask. So, who would you like to see on the podcast next?
There is one guy that I really admire. I was working with him for multiple years on and off, not in the same company, but it's using him as for the workshops and so on.
Mm,
His name is he is Dutch, um, and but living in Gothenburg in Sweden.
okay,
He's a professor at university, to professor of software engineering at Chalmers in to university in Gothenburg, Jan Bosch,
okay.
and um, he is really the guy that can bring a lot of good stuff, a lot of good talks, not only on one but multiple areas, and especially about software development and the
Hmm, cool.
processes in software development.
That's
Uh,
that sounds like someone I should talk to.
yes,
Samir, thanks a lot for your time today.
you're welcome. You're welcome.